All right, Emmanuel ended the show on some exciting news. Michelle and Katie are the Bachelorettes. Mm-hmm. And before everyone panics, which would have been... You couldn't think of a worse move for this show to make if they actually made these two women the Bachelorette at the same time.
Oh my God.
It would have set the earth on fire.
I almost would have been like, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed.
Like, it's like you just keep really fucking don't give a fuck. It. Like, that's incredible. Because they came out together and were like, we're the Bachelorettes. And for a second, your heart stops. You're like, oh my God. Because we have seen this before. Look, at Kaitlyn Bristowe, when she was the Bachelorette, people forget, there were two Bachelorettes. They had night one, the men in the house vote for who they wanted to be the Bachelorette.
Ashley, right?
No, her name was...
I was sure it was Ashley.
No.
Brittany?
Brittany. It was Brittany.
I think it was Brittany.
Now that I think about it.
Britt. Yeah, Britt.
Wow, I can't believe that. Seems like 100 years ago.
Yes, 100%. So, like, for a second, it's like, holy shit, they are not doing this right now. They are not. Katie is going to be the Bachelorette first. We're going to get her coming up in the spring, summer. I think we know that they're starting to film basically like right now. And then we're going to get Michelle in the fall. So they're each going to get their own Bachelorette season. And then hopefully we get Paradise in between. So we're getting just a lot more of this show in the last 36 months than we ever have before.
So what's the schedule? What's it going to be?
It's the Bachelorette in May.
Okay.
Yep.
Bachelor in Paradise in the summer.
Midsummer, end of summer.
Bachelorette again in the fall.
Okay.
And then Bachelor after that.
So
I'm in.
Normally we never get
more Trent on the podcast.
Yes, that is true. We're locking in Trent all year long. 2021.
Yeah. We're gonna print a contract.
Yeah,
I'm
basically all year long. But no, normally before the pandemic, it was always The Bachelor starts January 4th, whatever, the first Monday in the new year. That goes. Then they do Paradise in the summer. Then they do Bachelorette in the spring, and then they do Paradise in the summer.
Yep.
And the fall is off. Football season. They don't. They don't
compete.
They just go Monday night. They don't really have the show on. There would always be a couple there towards the end of Bachelor in Paradise and football starting.
People being like, "Why aren't you watching sports, man?"
Yeah.
Watch
for sure.
Barstool Sports.
Yeah.
I'm excited for both Katie and Michelle seasons.
Yeah.
I think they're two great choices. I think we're going to get two different personalities from each of them.
Yeah, definitely.
I also love that Tayshia and Kaitlyn are hosting. I think they're two great. I think that, once again, Tayshia and Kaitlyn have different personalities, and they're both going to bring their own thing to the show in a different way. And I love that it's two women hosting the Bachelorette season.
Yeah.
I think the Bachelorette having strong women to go to while they're going through this is going to help a ton. I think having Chris Harrison in that role, which he's done for years, it's obviously, but when you get hit in the face with it, when you get hit in the face with the fact that you've had this older man be the host during The Bachelorette, and he's more like a dad figure to them, and they can't really spill all to him.
Yeah.
Whereas with Tayshia and Kaitlyn, they've been through this before. They know what's going on behind the scenes. And also, just as a woman, you can relate to them and they can relate back and give a different sort of advice. So I really think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I know we've talked about this before. I think doing the same thing, how long has this show been on? 20 years?
A long time,
right?
yeah.
It works. People love it. It's working for a while. But change necessarily isn't a bad thing.
Correct.
When you add something fun into the mix, it makes people excited to watch. And I think all of us, when we heard Tayshia and Kaitlyn were going to be hosting, we were like, this is fun. This is going to be
great
fun.
duo.
This is going to be exciting.
I think you're right, too. I think they'll be far more involved in the season. Chris Harrison, lately, he shows up, he gives a date card, he gives a little bit of a speech. He obviously greets the Bachelor or the Bachelorette when they show up. And then that's kind of it. He's just around a little bit. I think Kaitlyn and Tayshia will be way more involved.
Right.
And the conversations that they have with the Bachelorette, Katie, will be far more meaningful. It won't just be like pop in here and out. It'll be a little bit of that, but it'll be more. We'll see them more and they'll be more involved.
And they're both so funny and have great personalities in their own right that, we've seen Chris Harrison for so long in the same sort of way he does. He had his classic lines, but I think it's time for a fun change like this.
Yeah, he was always a staple of the show, and of course there are people that are upset that he won't be back this season. But it's not necessarily like and we said this when we talked about Tayshia and Kaitlyn hosting before. Is it really going to change the show that much? No.
It's the same show.
And think about, like, you know, they would always bring a past bachelor, past bachelorette to come for a day or two. They do a date, or they have this meeting with the new bachelorette to advise them or whatever. And so it was also interesting because Tayshia and Kaitlyn were like, hey, we're not, you know, the new host. We're not replacing him. We're here for support. We're here for support the new bachelorette. And that aspect of it I love. It's like, and like you were saying, it's like, you know, they can do their quote unquote hosting duties, whatever that is. But on top of that, hopefully they are there as an actual support system to Katie. If Katie needs someone to go to, or needs advice, or needs help with something, hopefully Tayshia and Kaitlyn are actually there to help her in those moments, from people who have been through this and know how it works and know the system, that they could actually be like kind of guiding lights, which is a nice thing that they should almost have like all the time.
Yeah, and I think for both Tayshia and Kaitlyn, I'm excited for them for both different reasons. I think Tayshia being the second woman bachelorette who is a woman of color, and now going from that to quickly being somebody who's going to be doing a hosting duty of some sort is really awesome.
Yeah.
And I think for Kaitlyn Bristowe, who I think got slighted a lot during her time, you know, when she was the bachelorette and she got so much backlash for the whole thing with Nick Viall, and then you know, she wasn't allowed to do Dancing with the Stars. They didn't allow her to do that, and
people were so obsessed with her and Sean too.
People
that it was
were,
like,
you know, and then she got shit for that.
People, aka me,
and I feel like she has,
obsessed with Kaitlyn and Sean.
I wasn't so attached to them, so I was kind of fine when it, you know, I was happy for her and Jason. But I think Kaitlyn Bristowe has such a fun energy and a really good personality that I'm glad that she has like overcome each thing each time. And even if the franchise has, you know, messed with her in some way, she still respects it and comes back to it and has changed, and they've changed the way they act towards her as well.
They've gone back at each other like for a while now. You know, Kaitlyn was pretty open after her season and the Dancing with the Stars debacle with ABC and everything, that relationship wasn't great. Like her relationship with the show was not fantastic, and you know, she was pretty open about that. But I feel like, you know, she is obviously such a big face now, and I think a lot of that, she is amazing, but I think a lot of that does have to do with Jason as well. Like now, you know, they're in love. Love is the end all be all of this show. So it's like,
she's also just done a great job of creating her own fan base as well.
Sure,
you know, with her podcast outside of The Bachelor. So she has all that. So
she has great insight on how this all works.
A really great accomplishment for the two of them. I think it's really cool to see them in that role, and that they didn't just pick another guy. Yeah, I think that's cool too.
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh, why wouldn't they get like a host, somebody from outside the franchise?" Which now, like watching Emmanuel Acho, I'm like, I will give it to him. I would have been happy with him doing it. But I also understand going with Tayshia and Kaitlyn, and I do like that they went with two females to coincide with Katie's season. And all we know as of right now that they're going to be part of Katie's season. Michelle's season will be in the fall, and we don't really, you know, we don't know yet.
Katie, Tayshia, and Kaitlyn seem like a blast in a glass. I gotta say,
really
they seem like three women that I want to hang out with.
People to hang out with.